40 Waters, welcome. Another episode, 40 Watt Podcast. My name is Philip. I am your host. Welcome back. So excited to be back and talk about some things. Got one of my favorite people to chat with on the podcast this week. You've already seen the description, so I'm not going to go into that just yet. But first, I want to talk about the folks that make this show happen. We're going to do this very quickly because I know that y'all want to get right into the meat of the episode. You might not. This might be a dark one. Just going to go ahead and tell you that up front. So first of all, I want to thank all the Patreon supporters over on Patreon. Y'all really are the heartbeat of the show and keep this going. Thank you for your continued support. Got folks over there that have been supporting the show from the beginning, and it means the absolute world to me. Had a couple of new Patreon supporters join, and right now I don't have it in front of me to pull up the names. I don't normally read the names, but if I sometimes do, I may get back to that. If y'all think that's something you want me to do, say your names out loud all over the internet. Let me know. But you can go over to patreon.com/40watt podcast. There are also additional episodes as a perk. We also have a couple of three business sponsors of this podcast. First of all, I want to thank Barry over at Grez Guitars supporting the show, making it happen. Going to get to see Barry next week as this episode goes out. At Fretboard Summit. Really excited to be in Chicago with all my guitar nerd friends. Not guitar nerd friends like Joe here, but with all the other nerdery that's going on and geek. No, because that's somebody else too. I don't have a nerdy geeky word I can use that isn't already taken by someone. But gonna get to see Barry over there. I'm really excited to play some of the new guitars he's got. Of course, the newest model, the Grez Grand Tour and the Grand Tour Bass, two of my favorite guitars that have ever been made. So also want to thank a couple of pedal sponsors for this podcast. First, I want to thank Mark over at Summer School Electronics, who I will also see next week at Fretboard Summit. This week, I'm looking at and featuring the Spring Break Reverb. Y'all, it's a really fun reverb. You can run it as just a good old-fashioned, very simple one-knob reverb, or you can turn on the switch, which adds a delay to the reverb trails, which can make it get pretty spacey and fun. Go over to Summer School Electronics, check out all the stuff he's got. He's got the middle school chorus out. It's really rad. I love that pedal a lot. It may be my favorite one he makes. Also want to thank the folks over at Maris. If the Spring Break Reverb isn't enough reverb for you, you could grab the Maris Mercury X and have all the reverb that your heart desires. Sorry, Mark, Mercury X is my favorite reverb pedal I've ever played because it does everything I've ever wanted a reverb pedal to do. Mine's starting to get beat up a little bit because I use it a lot. I was actually wiping it down before just so I could hold it up to the camera and it looked clean. So y'all go check them out. Links are down below. Appreciate all the support from patrons and the brands that make this show happen. Now, let's get into things. Mr. Branton, or I'm sorry, Mr. Joe, as Matt says, how are you?
Good. I'm good. It's lovely to be here on 40 Watt. Thanks, Philip. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. I mean, we chat all the time, and I'm over on Guitar Nerds, at least quarterly. It feels like.
Yeah, and as much as we can get you.
Yeah, and it's fun because we get to talk about a lot of things over there, but I wanted to bring it over to the 40 Watt side, get some folks over here to hear from you and your take on things, and we've got a couple of topic ideas, and I'm sure we will chase all kinds of rabbits.
Is what we do.
Yeah, but what's been going on in your guitar and gear life lately?
Well, I'm trying to sell loads of stuff at the moment. I'm definitely doing that thing. I know we all do the thing where you have lots of stuff and then maybe you don't, but I'm in that point where I'm like, there's too much stuff here. It might be because my office is quite small, but sometimes it plagues me. Like at night, I'm thinking, what should I be? What gear should I change this on my pedal board? What 2 guitars am I taking on tour? And it just goes round and round in my head. And I was like, just want to simplify a few things. I'm done with having mid-range stuff or entry-level stuff, like fun, cheap things. I do that a lot. I'm a sucker because I love purchasing guitar gear. Very easy to purchase affordable guitar gear. I know you are great at just having loads of your choices are always excellent, and you don't waste your time with anything that's half cocked. Everything you buy tends to be the best at what it can be. You've got excellent taste in that. I tend to be a little bit more random. I think you've got a style though as well, Philip.
Yeah,
You know,
I have a very defined
yeah.
palette.
Exactly. Whereas I just talk myself into things. So, you know, one minute I'm like, oh, all I care about are, I don't know, sort of old 60s Italian made guitars. And the next I'm like, you know, at the moment I'm going through this thing, you know, Ned Steinberger makes some cool stuff. You know, so I go all over the place. So I'm trying to reduce things. So I've been selling a bunch on Reverb, trying to slim down to a few guitars. I'm actually trying to fund the payment I've got from Vintage Bass Rooms, which is one of my favourite UK sort of vintage bass guitar only collectors. They do guitars occasionally. I got my 1968 Telecaster bass from them, which I love, but at the moment I've got a 1973. No, I don't have the card here. I can't remember if it's 71 or 73. I think it's 73 precision bass from them at the moment. But I made some other purchases in the interim when I bought a Nordstrand Synonix from the Juan Alderete shop.
Yeah.
So, and that's eaten into my finances for paying for the 7301 P bass. So I'm trying to fund that because that would be great. If I could just play vintage Fender basses, I kind of feel like that's all anyone needs, really.
Yeah, we've talked about this. So I own two basses. They're both behind me for viewers over on YouTube. Remember to click subscribe, by the way. And they're Highway 1 basses, so they're thin finished, you know, jazz and P bass style. And I'm like, that's all I want. I don't want a vintage bass. I'd love a vintage bass, but like I worry about maintenance on vintage instruments.
Do you know what, Philip? That's one of the things that I've had recently in getting an Synonix. So I got a fretless Nordstrand Synonix owned by Juan Alderete, and I loved it so much. I thought, well, I would like a fretted one. So if I wanted to gig, because for my band, I switch between a fretless and a fretted, and I have two. I have basically the same jazz bass twice in fretted and fretless that I can move between. If I was going to have the Synonix, I'd probably need, because it's such a different instrument, I don't want to have different settings on all my pedals to do an instrument change. So just a fretted version of the same thing would be great. I got that. And because everything I buy is either vintage or a vintage reissue, you know, of some form, I'm like, everything's so like it all works. The bridge works properly. Like it's got a truss rod access thing.
It's got the disc style.
The disc style one, and it comes with a straight Allen key. And I had to do some adjusting because I put 65 to 120s on it so I could get it down into D. It's short scale, and I needed to get it down a tone into D standard.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I had to adjust the neck, and it was easy, straightforward. I'm not, you know, with all the vintage Fenders, I'm taking the whole neck off, taking a guess at what I think it should do, then bolting it back on, stringing it back up, bringing it back up to pitch. Nope, that wasn't quite enough. Same thing again. It's like half a day when you need to set up a P bass or a jazz bass. This took 5 minutes and plays great. And
yeah,
I can make subtle adjustments. I can fine tune it, which is just something you can't do with an old Fender, which I think is why we sort of go, that's fine. Like if action's a bit high on old guitars, you're like, that's fine. Because honestly, what you mean is it's too much effort to take this neck off.
Yeah, that's exactly what you mean.
So I have enjoyed fine tuning this, you know, but
I think that's why I loved that Highway 1 series so much. It was, you know, thin Fender finishes,
proper nitro.
I think that I especially like the early ones that use the 60s spaghetti logo, not the later the black logo from the 70s. And I also picked up recently as part of a deal Highway 1 Telecaster. That we'll see if it's sticking around. It's one of those things that it came as part of like too good of a deal to turn down that may turn into a flip.
What finish?
And so it adjusting it was easy because the truss rod access is top of the headstock, and it's a 9.5 radius instead of 7.25.
Wow.
So I get nitro on a guitar I like with all the aesthetics I like. You know, 3 saddle bridge, which I like. I put my favorite Telly saddles on it, the Bensonite saddles on it,
Brilliant
and
saddles.
it's perfect.
What
It's absolutely
what
perfect.
color? What finish?
It's in sunburst. I do wish it had been the honey blonde finish, because I
It
really
looks great.
I still want a black guard. I still just want a black guard. But yeah, they're really affordable still. I mean, used, they're creeping up there a little bit though. Thank you, Chris Buck.
What do they
But
go for in the US?
you can usually find them anywhere between $800 and $1,200,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
depending on condition and some factors.
Yeah. About $1,000 UK is what they go for over here. So that's about 1,200. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
that's
makes
about
sense.
right. So I love those because they're vintage styled. Nobody's gonna mistake them for a vintage instrument, but they're vintage styled modern instruments.
That's it. It's the right blend, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. I don't want. I've had some vintage guitars. I've had, proper 60s Gibsons, and I've never had anything older than an 80s Fender, but it's just, I love the idea of the vintage instrument. I don't want anything to do with the maintenance and upkeep of a vintage instrument. I would
Yeah.
much rather have something modern that's made better, y'all. I've been saying
No.
this for years.
It is true. It is true. You get dodgy. I mean, I got very lucky with the 1968 Telecaster bass I got. It is, if I think you could, it's almost the other way around. You could be fooled to think it's a custom shop. Like it feels, I don't know, just good. Just everything about it is robust. It doesn't have that, slightly shonky feel that a lot of vintage stuff does. We spoke about it a bit on, I think, a Patreon episode over on Guitar Nerds, but I've contacted Green Pickups over here, one of my favorite little boutique pickup companies, and I'm sending them the pickup from my Telecaster bass for them to wind me something. They're going to make it look the same because they were sort of cream grey, the pickups on the 60s. They were very unusual. So he's managed to get that material for the top, and he's going to rewind me something with slightly bigger pole pieces, because you dig in on a Tele bass, because those pole pieces are the size of like a Strat pickup or a Tele bridge pickup. You hit too hard on a bass string and it's moving so far away from where the volume is actually being picked up on the pickup, you end up with like phasing stuff. So,
Yeah.
because of course basses at the time were being played lightly with a thumb. So
Nobody was hammering it
Yeah.
with a pick
Yeah,
during
exactly.
a math rock set.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a big deal, because now I do love vintage styled guitars. Obviously, I am a complete and utter Neanderthal with my instrument choices. Basically, if you want me to care about it, it needs to be a Telecaster, a Les Paul, or a 335. With a few exceptions for a few different brands that I love a whole lot that aren't like Grez. Obviously,
Yeah.
none of those things. But
I still think my favorite thing you've ever owned was that, I can't remember the year, 1960 something Gibson ES1
125,
125.
yeah, that was it was such a cool guitar, but it really fell into that category of, I don't want to maintain this.
Yeah,
It was
I get that.
a proper hollow body with a floating bridge, and it also had the skinny nut width. And I told myself I could get used to it and be okay with it, and I couldn't. I tried for a year to get used to that nut width, and I just never was happy. And then here's a proper endorsement of what we're saying. I got the Grand Tour that way.
Yeah.
And it came in, and then I realized all the sounds I wanted the 125 for, the Grand Tour could do it. And it was a modern made guitar with, conveniences that I didn't get out of the vintage Gibson. I was like, okay, this is what I'm keeping. I'm letting this one go.
Yeah, that's it. That's always the way. I mean, one of the things I love, that I think we probably have better access to good ones over here, although, there'll be plenty of imports, I'm sure, but from the 50s especially, I think we tend to get better Hofners over here than you do in guitar form as well. And I love, especially like Hofner guitars from the late 50s. The President, I think, is an incredible, awesome instrument. I love some of their acoustics that they do, but Hofner didn't start using truss rods till 62. So any of those old 50s Hofners, you're getting truss rodless. And if you can find one that's good, that's fine. But you have to maintain that. There is a very, very nice old Hofner Senator in We Have Sound Guitars in Worthing, my little local guitar shop. I love it. It's like £399. I actually
We've
have
talked about that
£100.
one, haven't we?
Yeah, because it's sold. I was
Yeah.
about to buy it, and it's sold. And the person who bought it brought it back. So it is back. I have £100 credit with the store, so we're looking at like 300 quid. I could probably get it down to 250, but again, it comes down. I'm trying to pay for that
Yeah, you
71
got
or
other
3 Divas.
priorities.
I would love it, but also the other thing is this attic room where I am gets very hot and very cold. And it's since I've been in this new house 7 months, and I have at least twice had to do virtually complete resetups on everything in the room. Just
Oh,
from the temperature. I need to get aircon. I know,
yeah, you do.
this is the UK does seem to be like as we get closer to the end of the world, the UK is heating up quite a lot. We make good wine now. Who'd have thunk? That's how hot it is in the UK now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good for wine. But
That doesn't make any sense
no,
whatsoever.
exactly. So I don't know if I could maintain a truss rodless 50s Hofner in this environment.
Yeah, the truss rod thing is an interesting one because, like, do you know when? And this is I actually looked it up while we were talking because I wanted to be sure. Do you know when Martin started adding adjustable truss rods? 1985.
What?
Yeah,
Wait,
before
what?
1985, Martins had non-adjustable truss rods, and then before a certain time before that, they had no truss rod.
Oh my goodness, that is
85. I was alive when they finally decided to start adding truss rods.
wow. I
Like,
think I
that
have
doesn't make any
friends with
sense to
older.
me. It feels like such a no-brainer thing since at least the 60s. Like,
Everyone was doing that. Even the copies of Martin guitars being made in Japan had truss rods at that point.
Adjustable truss rods.
Yeah.
Not just a
adjustable ones.
T-bar in the neck. Yeah, I had to look it up to realize that they did have a truss rod, but
not one you could access.
It's such a weird vintage guitars can be so strange and so weird, and they've been through a lot to get to you today, and so their response to that trauma may not always be that great.
No, that is the problem. It's why, custom shop stuff, relic stuff, little luthiers there. I mean, I definitely think maybe Gibson have a leg to stand on because I think there's so much more that goes into the build of a Gibson than a Fender. But Fender custom shop prices at the moment are absolutely they've gone off the deep end. I don't know why anyone would buy one anymore. It's so much money when the quality coming from luthiers is so high. And the thing is, you've probably got one in your local town, like or at least in your state. There will be a great luthier doing a version of this that is probably half the price. If you think a really proper custom shop from Fender is now getting up for $5,000 in UK pounds, so I guess it's getting on for 6 in American.
I was on the guitar on the Studio Rats live stream yesterday, and we got to talking about this because yesterday as we record this week as we're putting this out, because the new Fenders dropped, the Ultra Luxe Vintage.
Yeah, they got it. I think they were trying to add more words to the name, but
come on. Also, I'm tired. I'm really tired of getting advertisements from Fender for a Stratocaster that talks about innovation. I'm really, really tired of that one. But
this range is not for me.
It for me it should be like it's some vintage styled stuff, some nods. What they're doing is trying to compete with Sir.
Yeah,
and Sir and other brands similar that are doing, because Sir has their classic line. I think I don't know the Sir lines well enough, y'all. So if I get these wrong, please just a little grace.
But it's their vintage styled one.
Yeah, they're vintage styled with the checked finishes and all that kind of stuff. They're trying to compete with. There are other brands doing that as well. That aren't quite custom shop, because I think of Sir as like the smallest major guitar brand. You know what I mean?
Oh, right. Okay.
I think they've really gone past the boutique label.
Yeah.
I think they're a little bigger than that now. And so there are other brands like that get a little more into what I consider custom shop, and Sir can get there too. But custom shops are I think the cheapest custom shop I could find from a dealer was a refurb at Sweetwater for 3 grand. And that's a refurb. And then they had a couple that are marked down, but probably because they've been there a while, um, to like 3.3 and 3.5. But then like they get into like 3.8, 4.2, 4.5, 4.8, real
Exactly.
fast.
It's so much. We like, we all have friends that are constantly sharing links for things that they found on Facebook Marketplace or Reverb or eBay. Things to
Yeah.
buy. I have a couple of friends keep sharing me like custom shop things and being like, look at this, it's a great price because it's 2.5 grand. It's obviously a pre-owned thing. It's a
Yeah.
private sale. But it's like, well, it is a good price if you compare it to what Fender are asking for now. But I don't. It's just what that guitar's worth. It's worth if we're talking about a nitro finished bolt on guitar, I think they're really topping out at 3 grand UK price, whatever the spec. I don't
Yeah.
think there's value above that. And just Fender are just gonna. I mean, come on,
And
Disney. That's all they are now.
and I am a certified Gibson fanboy as well. Everybody knows that, and I don't hide it anymore. I have no shame about it. If you don't like it, that's okay. But even with that, there's a top end where I'm like, anything above that, it's one, it's not for me. And the same thing with these Fenders. They're gonna sell them. People are gonna
Yeah,
buy them. I bet they sound and play great, but I am unwilling to spend that kind of money on one, on a Fender style guitar. Um, at that point, I'd rather do a parts build,
sure.
like
Yeah.
we talked about on Guitar Nerds a while
They're
back.
exciting. They're so much fun. That's something that Fender have over Gibson, isn't it?
Yeah, you
Really?
can do parts builds. You
Yeah.
can't do that with a Gibson. So, but there's still a top end where I look at a Gibson and go, "You're cool," but there's no way. There's just no way. And I understand why those things happen. These things are priced. These things aren't priced in a vacuum. Um, it usually means when you're having to charge that much for something that maybe shouldn't quite be so much money, it means your overhead's gotten out of control. It means there's expenses somewhere else in your company that you're making up for, because every guitar you buy from any manufacturer, we talked about this on Studio Rats too, is that remember that every product you buy from a company has a little bit of their payroll, a little bit of their administrative cost, a little bit of their cost of their website, a little bit of their insurance, a little bit of their rent, all tied into the cost of that pedal or that guitar or that amp. Um, and so
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. That
it's
is
it's
the case.
complicated.
Yeah.
Anyway, I promised I wasn't going to rant entirely about the new Fenders. I'm sure they're great. I really, really do. I'm sure they're great.
I'm sure they are. They're just, it's just not for you. They're not
And
aimed
they
at you either. They're not aimed at me. It's just something different. I
and
understand
they
why
might end
they've.
up being a steel used later, like a year or two down the line. They might end up being a great value down the
Yeah,
road.
who knows? I still think the thing that Fender have, and it's not even a criticism of this range, it is that there are just so many ranges now. It's just so messy. There are so many guitars being built. They must be having to manufacture on such an incredible level at a time where the pre-owned market is swollen at the moment and prices are starting to come down on things across the board. It's just not the time to have huge lines of guitars. I think simplify, focus on your core. I mean, who am I to tell Fender what they should do? They're obviously by miles the biggest guitar brand in the world. Like last year, was it top 4 out of 5 best selling guitars on Reverb in both the new and the used category were all Fenders,
I
were all
think so.
Stratocastellas. The only instrument that wasn't was the Silver Sky, which is a Strat.
Yeah, which is a Strat.
Yeah.
And even those are coming down too, to be really honest. I saw a Silver Sky SE sell on Reverb last week for $399.
Really? Well, I
Yeah.
mean, 2024, the PRS Silver Sky was in both the best-selling new guitars and best-selling used, which
Yeah.
in around the same position, which means people aren't holding on to them after
People
they
aren't
buy them.
keeping them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But on the Fender and their lines, looking at Sweetwater real quick. And there is a Sweetwater affiliate link down below. I think I'm supposed to say that.
Yeah,
You can
that's
click
good.
that.
They're good.
And
They're good.
yeah,
Sweetwater.
great. Love it. They're very supportive of the podcast, and I greatly appreciate their support. But I don't push that very hard. I probably should mention that a little more often. You've got Stratocasters at the $230 price point. The And that's still the same model 304 price point. Then you've got the classic vibe at the $399 price point. And then you've got $449. That's just a different variation on that model. Then you've got the standard at $629. Then you've got the player 2 at $755, $799. So it's like every $200 you've got another Stratocaster.
Yeah.
And that takes you all the way up to about $2,000, and then there's a jump to 2,500, and then $3,000. But there's like 12 lines of Stratocasters.
Yeah. And do you
13?
remember, we're only going back a decade, and what we had was Mexican Standard, American Special, American Standard. Oh, sorry, no. After Mexican Standard, you did have Mexican Standard, Mexican Deluxe, American Special, American Standard, American Deluxe.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess maybe you had the Vintera, which wasn't Vintera line. It was the Baja line, which came in, which Classic. It was called Classic, and
That's
American Vintage. Which were, because I guess they were mirrored, weren't they? For everything Mexican, there was an American equivalent, and then you just had custom shop, and it kind of made sense. Do you want modern or vintage? Well, whether you go Mexican or American, they've got you covered, and then there's standard, modern, vintage, and then custom shop, and it makes sense. That's every type of player. I don't know who all these in between types of players are.
It's like they want a step ladder to get you all the way up to the top.
Yeah. I'm sure the Player 2 was obviously a great idea. One thing that they clearly took note of from how Squire was excelling, thanks to FSR color runs, and I think probably Chicago Music Exchange were largely responsible for people realizing that short runs of interesting colors were a great idea. But Fender really looked at how well Squire had done from all of those short runs, and changing from what was the Mexican Standard Series, where you could get red, blue, white, black, or sunburst, to the Player 2, where there's all the, shell pinks, coral colors, weird turquoises, things like that. Stuff that maybe kids and new players want, because they don't want their dad's guitar at that point. They don't want sunburst, even though sunburst is the best finish. They don't want that at that point. They want something weird and funky and cool. When I was 18, I wanted I think when I was 15 years old and I bought my first Affinity P bass, I went into the shop to buy one. I was trying a red one, and the guy was like, "What color would you want?" And I was like, "Yellow." He laughed at me, because obviously that was not a color option, but it is now. Kids can go in and get those things, and that's where Player 2 does really well. They've made the right guitar for young people. But
yeah, they've got the entry level kind of locked down. Like Fender has entry level guitars on lock, but there's also been a rise of alternative brands for entry level popping up. We've talked about them on Guitar Nerds, a bunch of other brands that are starting to find that space and offer alternatives. Brands like Tajima over here that are really starting to pop up in more and more stores.
Vintage Jet,
yeah,
companies like that.
Yeah, exactly. So there's not as many of those popping up, copying Gibson brands.
Yeah, well, and maybe that's why in the top 20 guitar brands on Reverb, you can tell I was looking at these stats recently.
Yeah,
the top 20 guitar brands on Reverb, Epiphone was substantially higher than Squire.
Well, yeah, because there isn't an alternative for that style. Not an affordable one. I love people like to talk about Eastman guitars. I'm like, that's not an affordable alternative to a Gibson.
No.
They're comparably priced.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Epiphone obviously are doing incredibly. They've the headstock changes, everything like that, just the right moves. I feel like they've made the right moves, because they get a lot of flack for doing guitars that are over $1,000. But I think what people forget is they've started doing that. They haven't stopped doing the affordable ones. You can
Right.
still spend $400 on a Les Paul, but also if you want to get a really nice inspired by Les Paul, you can spend £1,500 on one now, which
Yeah.
is
It's
great
beautiful.
because I don't want to spend $5,000 on a Les Paul, but I do want a Les Paul, and I don't want an entry level one. So that £1,500 Epiphone is perfect for me.
Yeah, and they're absolutely great instruments. I played one of the inspired by Gibson Custom Shop ROs recently, like the
Yeah.
60 model.
Yeah.
I call it an RO. It's not technically. It's a 60s inspired. Um, Great playing guitar, great sounding guitar. The top on it was flamed, but it had a little depth to it. So it wasn't like this flat veneer. Don't get me wrong, it's still a thinner piece of maple. It's not a full-on maple cap. But it actually had, like, when you turn it in the light, it actually had some movement in the flame. Shows you there's a
Sweet.
little depth there.
That's pretty cool.
Great instrument. So I think that's the coolest thing that's happening is that, these styles are becoming, they are available, because I remember the 1990s Epiphones,
Yeah.
and they weren't great.
No.
They
A lot
weren't.
of finish on them. There was a lot of paint. It was like the paint made the guitar twice the size. It was weird.
Yeah, exactly. They really did, and heavier. And I play with 3 mil picks, and I feel like there's a 3 mil pick worth of finish on all those guitars. And so I like that that's happening. I think there's just weirdness at the higher end going on that doesn't make a lot of sense. And Gibson, don't get me wrong, Gibson gets a ton of flack for all the $50,000 models they make. These artist limited runs, 25 guitars made with whatever crazy, weird, obscure thing. And I'm like, yeah, they make those and sell them. Do you know what those do and the collectors buying those do? They keep the price of the stuff that everybody buys a little lower
Yeah, totally.
because they're funding other things in the company. And those aren't meant for the everyday player. People get mad, but it isn't, like you said, with the Epiphone. They didn't stop making a $2,700 Les Paul because they released a $50,000 Les Paul.
Exactly.
Don't buy it. Do what I do. Ignore it. Because there's no world where, if somebody wants to pass one on to me, I don't know what's wrong with you that you want to pass something like that on to me. But that's the only way I'd ever have one or touch one or play one. So anyway, I have no good segue. Except that as we were talking about
Well,
reverb,
you
there's
mentioned
also,
plectrums.
I did mention
You
plectrums.
play a 3 mil plectrum, right?
I do. I've been that way for years now. You did mention reverb though, and I feel like I'd be remiss not to mention there's a reverb affiliate link down below as well.
Sorry.
So click that. Yeah, I got some new picks recently, and I love Rick over at Honeypick, who is a Patreon supporter of this podcast. Thank you,
I
Rick.
love Rick. Honey picks are the best picks. I've got a lot of time for these plectrums.
Makes great picks, is the nicest dude. I got to get him back on the podcast and see how he's been doing. But recently I had made a swap. I had been using Honey Picks exclusively, but like the materials I had, because he offers, I don't know, I think there's 10 or 12 materials over on his website now that he offers. They were just a little clicky. There was like this high-end thing that I wasn't liking.
A chirp.
Yeah, there's a chirp to it. And then I discovered the D'Addario or Dunlop, the Dunlop prime tones.
Oh yeah, the plectrum.
And I got some of the 3 mil prime tones, and I love these picks. I love them a lot. Just standard pick shape, nothing crazy. And I think these go for, like, you can buy a pack of 3 for $12, something like that.
That's
which
fine.
is pretty reasonable. But everybody keeps talking about, and Fretboard Journal did this whole feature on the blue chip picks. And so I asked Rick if he had a material like that. And he's got Torlon, which is effectively the material they use to make blue chip picks, as far as I understand. Same material. Rick's are colored differently. I think you can do a bunch of colors in it. I don't think that's the issue. You just can't do clear in them, apparently. But he also had Ultim, which is another, just a denser plastic. Um, it's all plastic, y'all. This
Yeah.
is all just varying degrees of plastic. And so I bought some expensive picks from Rick. The Ultim that's a $15 pick. I can't get that to focus.
No, but I can see it. Well, it looks very beveled on the edges. Looks
Yeah, it is very beveled. These are 3 mil, same shape as the Prime Tones I like. This is their beehive shape. And that's a great sounding pick. But I was like, the big thing is I wanted to try the blue chip thing and that sound and see if there's actually something to it. So I ordered one of Rick's Torlon picks, $35. They're very expensive, y'all. Some of you spend that much on a pack of strings, though. So, a pick that never wears away.
Could you explain to me what the blue chip is?
Blue Chip is a company that makes these. They're basically made from this material or similar, but they've really developed a reputation. A ton of bluegrass players use them. A lot of jazz guys have moved to them.
Right.
It's just a plastic that has a different attack on the strings that's really pleasing.
Right. Okay.
I
less
find
of attack, duller, softer.
It's got this brightness on the front end that isn't harsh, but then the note almost has a compression. It comes in it doesn't just hit you in the face.
Okay.
That's the best way I can describe it.
Right.
But I'm looking at their website, shop online, for flat picks, you're looking at $35 is the baseline to get into them.
Right. I see.
They can be as high as they make a Blue Chip Jazz 100 large. It's their large jazz 3 style, $75.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And that's just the first page. Apparently, there's 4 pages of picks to choose from.
Yeah, I have the most expensive picks I have are these Hufschmid plectrums.
Oh,
which if you're watching, you can see this one's a glow in the dark plectrum, so it charges on light and then glows in the dark, so you can see it. It's a big plectrum though, and
that is handy.
And he does these ones as well, which are pretty sizable. Sorry if you're listening. I'm holding some large plectrums that look like they're made out of stone.
That last one looks like it's just strata from the side of a mountain, layered.
Yeah, they're huge. Is like Hufschmid make guitars. They're mostly extended range. It's all very metal, so they want that chirp and stuff. I found it very difficult to use personally myself for the way sort of I play, but they if you don't play like me, then if you're playing heavy stuff, then they're great. I mean, I when it comes to plectrums, I really love honey picks. I am a sucker for felt, they're just banjo plectrums or whatever. I don't know. Is it banjos? Who plays?
I think it's mandolins.
Mandolins, whatever. I really like them. I really like that. It's just they don't last long and they make a mess. But, but they do sound good.
I should probably have 1 or 2 around just to have, just for sound when I'm recording, which doesn't happen as often as I'd like it to, but soon will be happening a lot more. I talk about that at another time, but Joe, we had a topic. We're going to get into it here. It feels like about the right time. I've been wanting to have this conversation for a little while, and it's finding the right person to talk about it with. Basically, someone who cares enough to talk about it. AI is taking over our industry.
Well,
it's kind of taken over everything.
Well,
I think it is. I think we're at a tipping point with it, because we're starting to see it a lot more. We're getting problems with it in the music creation space and these AI generated artists. And I know everybody's talking about the one that Rick Beato mentioned, Velvet, whatever. I don't remember what they're called. I listened to them and immediately knew they were AI.
Yeah.
Right. I heard them and was like, that's AI. That's not humans.
Yeah.
But then there's been some other artists, and I played it before we started recording so you could hear it. One that absolutely fooled me until I listened a little more critically. Because because it came on a playlist that I was just listening to, YouTube Music playlist, and it came on. I was like, yeah, this is good. Who is this? And I realized their entire website's AI images. There's no actual contact. There's no live photos. There's no live video. There's no real photo of the person, but they treat it like it's a real person.
Yeah, of
all
course.
the
Yeah.
all the YouTube music is just a track with an image that's obviously AI generated, and they're churning out like a song every 2 to 3 days on YouTube.
I am going to counter your argument here, but
Okay. Yeah.
I don't have to yet.
Yeah. So I think we're starting to see a bit of a problem, and I think it's going to become even more commonplace. Maybe not to that extent of the fake artist. That's going to keep happening. I think
Yeah.
that's here to stay, because companies found a way to make money, and that's what they're going to try to do until something happens to stop it. But I think AI powered tools are going to keep creeping further and further into the industry.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think they will at this point. I think whenever you get something new, things get abused until people work out an infrastructure to deal with them. And
Yes.
that's just kind of the internet was the Wild West when it started out, and
Yeah.
things gradually became more policed, and things got a little bit more like, look at the sort of crap we all used to write on our Facebook walls 20 years ago. Like, it's very different now, sort of how
Yeah.
people interact in an internet space.
And now I can't get off Facebook fast enough.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think, yes, there are those. If you look at it cynically, then yeah, there are problems at the moment with the abuses of it. I think, however, when you're saying it's damaging the industry, I think you're assuming that we're coming from a place where this industry is good and functioning, and and is this is what we want. And I don't know if it is, and I don't know if AI is actually affecting the good bits. I think AI is affecting the bad bits, because pre-AI, well, that was just management owning pop bands churning out crap. It was the same as AI. Is AI really any different from I can't think of a single pop artist. I don't know. I actually can't think of I can't, and not one name is popping into my head. But is AI any different from enter any generic pop singer in the doing sort of that sort of stadium pop thing?
Yeah,
Is it
think
really
any
any?
C-list boy band from the 1990s or 2000s.
Yeah, exactly. Is any of it really any different? All that was management recruiting pretty people and having people whose job it is to churn out crap songs sing those songs. I kind of feel like that part of the industry, I don't really mind if those people don't get the work anymore, because I think they were damaging it already. And when it comes to the people that consume that sort of thing, are they really part of this? I don't know, maybe, but I feel like I can exist without being affected by a lot of that, just by listening to a lot of great music and real musicians, and appreciating the human element in all of those things. The sort of people who are happy with bargain basement CD and listen to the top 20, they don't like music. They're just listening to something because society, I'll go sort of down that route, because society tells them this is a thing you're supposed to do, like getting married, having kids, and getting a mortgage and a sensible car. That's all this is. People listen to the radio. It's so not connected with actual music and musicians and proper artists and creators and creatives. AI might be one thing, but before AI, it was, if you take the visual side of things, it was cameras, because before that we had artists, and we had huge. You look at the Renaissance and that as an art movement, and trying to replicate life, and almost that fell away as photography and cameras came in as an alternative art form, and people reinvented art and moved more towards expressionism, and we got all these wonderful other genres from it because humans reacted to the competition. I just kind of think, like, maybe maybe, and it's just a hope, because I know I'm digging in on this, and I don't really oppose it. I think AI is the worst thing in the world. I am worried about it, but I just think maybe all those crap pop singers might learn to be better musicians if they've got competition from AI, and we might just get some better music out of it. So
That's definitely an interesting take. Not a direction I thought you were going to go with
there you
it.
go.
But I like the allusion to cameras and the art world and the way that kind of changed things, because I think we're definitely going to see that, and I think it's less in the. I think it's way less about the fake artist and whatnot. I actually think eventually there will be something around that gets dealt with, that it has to be marked that it's not human created. Like, in order to be sold or consumed or monetized, it has to be identified that it is not created by a human, that it's created by a computer. But we see similar arguments every time a new technology pops up. Musician unions tried to ban synthesizers when they came out because they were replacing horn and string sections, or they thought they would. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess in a way they kind of did, but in some styles of music. I think about the 90s and the 2000s, the auto
I was about
tune
to say,
when
the advent of autotune in
yeah,
1992, that was a huge thing. And now it's
yeah,
just like a commonplace thing that's used artistically, you
yeah,
know.
and it's used on every recording.
Well, I don't. Yeah, but not every recording. But it's used a lot. It's used a
It
bunch.
is used a lot. And y'all, I am saying this as someone who talks to folks, even on recordings by singers who are incredible singers.
Well,
They,
the thing, if you've not used an auto-tune software, dear listener, it's you can run a vocal through it just to check things, and you can even like just tidy up a little vibrato. Like it doesn't actually make anything sound mechanical. It's just a way of making things sound right on. I don't think, however, that people always use it. Like, I've been party to recording sessions where people have chosen not to keep a bit more of a Rolling Stones element to things.
yeah,
But
and I
I will
appreciate
say,
that a lot.
in general, if you're trying to make something that's clean, then yeah, every vocal will be run through it, even if you are making the most fractional of adjustments.
Yeah. And so that's happening. And I think in that world, in the recording world, I think that's where we're going to start to see AI driven tools start getting used a lot.
Here's an example of an AI driven tool which is very useful, certainly for me.
Mhm.
My band's just recording an EP. It's just because we've got an album coming out next year, and we wanted something to come out this year. So we recorded an EP, did it ourselves, and we're putting it out like on a limited run of 10-inch vinyl, just getting like 100 press, super short run. And because we're trying to save money on it, because we've got to pay for a record next year, I've done all the production and I'm doing the mastering. I use Isotope plugins for
Yeah.
mastering. They have a suite called Ozone, which is their mastering suite. Ozone uses AI, and I've used Ozone 9 basically forever, and that's got some okay tools that like listen to your track and then go, hey, maybe you want to add these things, and you sort of take it as a baseline and go, well, yeah, I mean, I knew I was going to add that, but thank you for the heads up. It's a bit like the paperclip on Word. It sort of tells you stuff that you know anyway, but it's fine. It's sort of, I guess if you knew nothing about mastering, it would be very helpful. They've just updated to Ozone 10, and Ozone 10 has a feature where for example, I have the tracks recorded for our next album. I can play a track to Ozone, like an external track to Ozone, and then it can listen to that and apply EQs and compressors and images, stereo maximizers to a different track, and it can interpret all the things from the other track and be like, well, if you want to replicate that production on this other track,
Here's
here are
what
the
you do.
things. That is useful AI to me,
Yeah.
as someone
See,
who's not a professional mastering engineer.
same. I don't know that I ever will be. I'm still wrapping my brain around mixing. So, uh, I do think those kinds of tools are definitely coming. I think and listeners, I really need y'all to understand that I am neither advocating for nor condemning AI use right now. I'm trying to maybe mark some benefits and pitfalls, but this is not me saying that I'm okay with some of the issues around AI. I just need to really be clear about that, because I'm going to get some people that come at me about the environmental impacts of AI and the educational impacts of AI. Fully acknowledged. I also know that when these tools get developed, they rarely just go away. But you're going to have to understand them. We're going to have to build better infrastructures for them to exist in that make them not as damaging to the environment, not as damaging to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Acknowledged. Y'all can yell at me if you want, but I won't respond. So let's just put it that way. Because I've given this disclaimer. But I think we're going to see even more tools where it's like, your bass drum, not just mastering, but hey, this bass drum, it could sound better, and it replaces sounds. Like, we use replacement software already, but suddenly an AI tool built into those. And, we don't replace some instruments because it's too complicated. But suddenly with AI, you don't like your guitar tone, don't like your guitar sound, I can completely change it. And I don't just mean reamping. I mean, oh, you thought that part should have been on a nylon string guitar? Let's swap it. Or these are very simple examples.
Yeah.
But I wonder, like, where is the stopping point? Like, where does it stop being a tool I use to create music and the tool that created the music?
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I think we're safe from a lot of that, because I think if you want to make an entire track on your phone right now in GarageBand and even strum chords on your phone, you can do that now. I'm not saying it would sound amazing, but you can definitely do that now. I think the thing with music is that it is and will always be about the human element, because that's the creation part of it. There's no fun in the other way to do it. The fun thing is playing the guitars in. The fun thing is stuff being slightly out of tune because you got into it. That's the bit that I think humans will always enjoy doing. So I think music will always be
I
safe.
sure hope so. Who was the CEO or tech bro that recently that was like, I think all music will be AI in future. Nobody wants to learn instruments and put in all the work to make recordings.
Yeah.
Did you see this quote?
Yeah,
Did you see this guy?
Yeah, just
Just absolutely absurd. That's no. I didn't start playing guitar because it was easy. I didn't start playing guitar because I just wanted the end product of music.
Yeah.
I started playing guitar because I actually enjoyed learning and playing guitar and keys and all the other instruments that I've picked up a little bit of over the years, because I enjoy doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway. Well, listeners, we're going to hop over to Patreon, where we're going to talk about our first pro rigs, the rigs we had when we first started getting paid to perform. I'm really curious about throwing my mind back to that time period and what I was playing and what I had. I'm actually trying to completely try to remember my rig. I think I know. So we're going to do that. If you want to join us in that conversation, patrons, y'all already know how to do this. If you're not a patron of the podcast, there's links below. Patreon.com/40watt podcast. $5. You get extra episodes every time a new episode goes out. Joe, anything else before we get out of here?
No, that's you're all wonderful. Continue listening to this great podcast.
Yeah. So click the links below to find the Guitar Nerds and Joe, and links to his band Polymath. So click those. Go check out all the things, like, subscribe, follow, rate, review. There's so many words. I'm going to stop. Y'all, thank you so much for hanging out. Be good to yourselves. Be kind to each other. And make some noise.